Shauna, what I would love to have you do first, because some of our viewers and listeners might not be familiar with just exactly what is a naturopath doctor.
That covers a lot of ground, actually, but I am continually surprised to people that haven't heard of it because I thought it was more common than that. I've actually had people say, what do you do for a living? And I say, well, I'm a naturopathic doctor. And they go, oh, and okay, what is that?
Is that a real doctor? That kind of thing, right?
So it's a real big difference in approach. We still work with, people's issues. We work with health, we work with things, but we try to work from the bottom up,
And you have many years of medical training, right? This is not something you do online to become a naturopathic doctor.
Well, no, not to put that down. Harvard has online courses, so there's a lot of, things that you're able to do. But no, this is a naturopathic doctor. There's a lot of different types of it. I'm what they call a traditional naturopath, where I don't choose to use any kind of medical testing as well. I use also naturopathic testing. And, but then I'll also have a PhD in, that was a lot of years. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But basically, we're going after the issue. One of the best explanations I heard of it one time was at a convention, and somebody asked the question of a doctor. They said, what isn't the most important thing, getting the person out of pain, and then, moving on from there. Mm-hmm. Said, okay, you're in the living room. You hear the smoke alarm go off in the kitchen. So you run into the kitchen. Do you turn off the smoke alarm or do you put out the fire? And she said the smoke alarm, that's pain. That's the symptom that something is wrong. Mm-hmm. So instead of addressing the symptom, what we try to do in naturopathic medicine is address the cause. Mm-hmm. And we do it without drugs.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I know that you use nutrition. You use many paths, and we're going to talk about those a little bit, because actually LifeWave is, it's not that you can't use Western medicine and use these patches. Of course you can. But I think the fact that the patches are natural, that they're working with the body, is very much in alignment with your kind of medicine, isn't it?
It is exactly in alignment with my kind of medicine. One of the most wonderful things about the patches, and the thing that first attracted me to them, is that your body is doing all of the work. Because whenever you're taking something, people object sometimes when I call a vitamin or a mineral synthetic, but the fact is it is synthetic. In order to get it down the chute, and into one of those little gel caps or something, you have to do certain things to it in order to get that to work. So anything that you take into your body has been processed at least minimally. And also too, there's always a dosage question, because there's a lot of things that can affect what the dosage is, how much somebody weighs, what their tolerance level is, how clean their liver is. There's just a million things that can affect dosage. And one of the very first things that attracted me to the X39 was that there's no dosage. You put it on a 200-pound person, or you put it on a 10-pound person, and it's going to do what it needs to do.
And when you first were exposed to technology and you first heard about it and you realized, now wait a second, nothing's going in the body. Now, how does that work? You must have been, with your educational background, with what you know, with what you've been practicing, for years, you must have been highly skeptical, number one, but I suspect, because you ended up being a very, very powerful proponent of the technology, you did your research, you did your due diligence. So what was that phase like for you, with the level of insights you had about how the human body works?
Well, highly skeptical is sort of where I live. I'm very like that with things. I don't easily accept that, that, oh, well, an advertisement said it worked. I saw it on Facebook. So, I'm not like that. Yeah. The person that told us about it, I have a great deal of confidence in, and that helped right there. That gave me enough confidence to want to take a look at it. But I was familiar with phototherapy, and I'm very familiar with energy medicine. I've been using energy medicine for all the years that I've been in practice. And though it was not an unforeseen concept to me, but it's hard to explain to somebody how exciting it is to me to know, as a naturopath, as working with somebody, that there's no possible way that I could do harm to this person, because I'm not dosing anything. I'm not giving them anything that they could possibly be allergic to or sensitive to or something. Their body does 100% of the heavy lifting. And that is right there. That is the most amazing thing, to know that when I give this to them, this is going to do nothing but help.
And Polly, if you have a question, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, Dr. Shauna, I would love it if you would just explain, because some of our viewers may be new to all this. Can you explain phototherapy and how that works?
The way I like to explain it is to go as easy as possible. One thing I've learned in the almost 20 years I've been in practice is to try and make things simple and easy to understand. And so here's how I usually explain it. This is how phototherapy, photobiomodulation works. When the sun hits your skin, you create vitamin D. There's no vitamin D in the sun. There's no vitamin D in your skin. But when the sun hits your skin at the right frequency, then it creates vitamin D. Now, if the exact same sun hits your exact same skin at a different frequency, then you create melanin, which is what gives you a tan. So it's not just about light sources. And a lot of people, they say, well, I'm wearing the patches under my clothes. It's dark. We're talking about the infrared light that's constantly in your body. And so what I was telling people is being able to wear the patches is kind of like being able to wear your own little private sun, that's been tuned to the frequencies, so that it creates the response in your body that we want it to have.
How about that? It's like your own little private sun. I've never heard that before. That's an interesting way to look at it, because the patch, it's awfully easy, isn't it, to try to get technical, to try to pretend like I'm an expert. I can talk all about this patch, and let me explain to you how cool this really is. But for the person who's listening, right, it's awfully easy for them to feel like, well, wait a second, that sounds awfully complicated to me. I don't know if I can, if I wanted to be in your business, I don't even know how to talk about it like you just did.
Right.
In the end, you put the patch on and watch what happens. I mean, isn't that really when you cut to the chase, that's the most exciting thing, is that depending on the patch, depending on the application, you see these kinds of very interesting results manifested. You don't know what's going on with the glutathione patch down at the cellular level. You don't know. But glutathione is elevated, and that's a good thing for the body. So is that what you mean when you talk about trying to keep it as simple as possible?
Yeah, because people, when we were in Las Vegas and they were giving all these scientific reports, and I was geeking out, I was just, falling. I was like geeking. Okay, but a lot of people around me were kind of going, and it made me realize that I lose people if I try to get too technical, which I do unfortunately sometimes, and get too far into the doctor brain, that I'm making it unreachable to someone. And the point of this, and the point of how masterfully simple this technology is that everybody knows that they have the same access to it. You don't have to have a degree in anything to be able to put a patch on, and you don't have to worry about what the response is going to be when it's something that's coming from your body.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I've seen a question here. They're talking about what happens after applying the patch that makes it not as effective after 12 hours of use. I think that David talks about an attenuation effect, this dynamic where the body, you have to give it a rest from what the technology is doing inside the body. And so 12 on, 12 off, because if you leave it on, the body kind of develops a
tolerance.
What is it?
Tolerance.
A tolerance, and doesn't necessarily notice the technology, doesn't notice it working as much. Or is that a good way to say it?
Yeah. The way that I always explain it is, so here you're sitting at your desk and there's somebody trying to get your attention. And they're like, hey, Jim, and you're going to, what? What do you want? Because it's going on, right? But if they do that for hours, you're just going to start ignoring them. And that's the easiest way.
Very good. That's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, so go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to say, we've all heard David talk about the fact that if you want optimal results from the patch, particularly X39, it's not necessarily going to do its best work if you're drinking a quart of vodka a day and smoking 2 packs of cigarettes and eating a lot of processed food. So, what, Dr. Shauna, would you recommend? What do you feel are the key components to having a healthy lifestyle so we can optimize the efficacy of the patches?
Well, you have to give the patches a chance. I mean, a lot of times when you say, if somebody says, well, I don't feel anything, I can't tell, well, are you helping it? I mean, you need to, one of the biggest things with people is you have to stay hydrated. And I've always told people all these years that I've been in practice, I could tell people to stand on their head and eat kitty litter and they would do it if they thought it would make them feel better. But if I say drink water, drink enough water, then all of a sudden it's, there's all these reasons why they can't drink water. And one of the big comments on my first book in the reviews was that people said, I've heard a million doctors tell me to drink water, but this is the first time anybody's ever told me how to drink water. And I think that that's a big thing. I always, again, with my metaphors, I always tell people that you want to be a drip line and not a sprinkler. When you turn a sprinkler on, you put a ton of water on your lawn in about 15 minutes, and then you turn it off and it soaks in. But unfortunately, your body is, your stomach, your bladder, your kidneys, there's a finite amount of space. So what you want to do is just take small little sips of water. I drink about 2 or 3 swallows at a time, but you do it all day. And that way the water has a chance to get into your body, soak in, and then you can put some more in, soaks in. And, so it's a very, very different way of doing it. One of the best signs to realize that you're dehydrated is that you're not thirsty. Because a person that is properly hydrated is usually thirsty. And it's counterintuitive.
They are thirsty?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, a hydrated person will be thirsty. Your body is smart and dumb at the same time. And we're not being coarse of you, but it thinks that you know what you're doing. So if you're not drinking water, then your body says, oh no, Paula's been stranded on a desert island with no water. So otherwise she'd be drinking water. So I'm going to stop sending up all these thirst signals and stop torturing her with thirst signals. So, right. Because it doesn't, and it says the same thing. Anybody that's ever fasted, even intermittent fasting, which is another key component, I think, it knows that experience where you're like hungry, 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 not hungry. And there's just a point where your body shuts off and says, well, I'm not getting fed, so I may as well quit, asking and torturing them. Wanting to do that.
Now, speaking of hungry, I know you feel like food is medicine,
Yes.
and it's critical to an overall healthy condition. What, and there are a zillion diets, right? You can be keto and phyto and hatto and pato, and, there's always a new something.
Yeah.
What do you think is the smart way to eat?
Well, I eliminate first the things that your body simply cannot process. Any kind of chemical or toxin, artificial, sweeteners, seed oils that don't digest, grains don't digest. So there's just some things that your body, you really need 2 stomachs to effectively digest grains because of the covering that's on the grains. So I have grains out because it's very difficult for your body to effectively digest those.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting right there.
Yeah. So I take the stuff out that your body just can't do, can't handle. There's nobody on the face of the planet that thinks that they can eat drive-through food 3 meals a day and be healthy. You know that you're not. I mean, people will still do it and they'll make all kind of excuses about doing it sometimes, but you know in your head that you can't. So if you're eating food that you can digest, if you're taking the toxins and the poisons out of it, and you're eating food that's been minimally processed, basically meat, vegetables, fruit, nuts, good fats, you're right in there. And then from there, you kind of have to sort out where you fall within that category. I always say my sister-in-law and I are like perfect examples because we're both grain-free, but if I ate as much fruit as she did, I would not be happy. And if she ate as much fat as I do, she would be happy. So once you take the food out of your diet that you simply cannot digest and you take the toxins out of it and the processing out of it, from there, it's kind of a trial and error, to find out where's your perfect protein, where's your perfect fat. And it's not always going to stay that way. I have been off grains, my gosh, since probably the late 80s. And yet